Fox News alert now. New details on the showdown at our nation's southern border as a group of Central American migrants continues their journey northward to the United States. U.S. officials telling Fox News 1,000 active duty U.S. troops have now arrived at the border, with more expected on the way. You're watching Outnumbered on a fine Friday. I'm Harris Faulkner. Here today, Melissa Francis, Fox Business Network anchor Dagan McDowell, Fox News contributor Jessica Tarlov. Joining us in the center seat, opinion editor and columnist for The Washington Times and Fox News contributor as well, Charlie Hurt. 4 days out from an election, this is Outnumbered, and this is who you want to have in the center seat. Hey!
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Shall we get to the news?
Yes, indeed.
Let's do it. Again, 4 days to go until the midterm elections. President Trump keeping the immigration issue front and center, announcing today, or yesterday I should say, an intent to hold migrants who cross the border and make an asylum claim in tent cities until their court date. There are growing questions about the administration's response to migrant caravans headed to the U.S. through Mexico from Central America. Watch the president.
The biggest loophole drawing illegal aliens to our borders is the use of fraudulent or meritless asylum claims to gain entry into our great country. They're given a little legal statement to read, and they read it. And now all of a sudden they're supposed to qualify. But that's not the reason they're here. This merely asserts the need for asylum and then often released into the United States, and they await a lengthy court process. The court process will take years sometimes for them to attend. Well, we're not releasing them into our country any longer. They'll wait for long periods of time. We have thousands of tents. We have a lot of tents. We have a lot of everything. We're going to hold them right there. We're not letting them into our country.
Meanwhile, Fox News has viewed deployment orders signed by Defense Secretary Mattis showing the Pentagon will not be building any tents for migrants and will only build tents for up to 2,400 Customs and Border Protection agents. So the Pentagon, our military, not taking place in the actual building of tents for those people crossing into our country. Charlie, we have reached the point now where it is blaringly obvious that we don't have the immigration policies that we need in place.
Oh my gosh, they are so hopelessly broken, our immigration laws, and they have been for a long time. And this is not, it's not a Democrat problem only. It's a Democrat and Republican problem.
It's an American problem.
Yeah, and but I mean
sovereignty at your border.
But I mean, in terms of blame, both parties deserve blame for this. Both parties have neglected this issue for so long, and it has gotten so bad that we are now in this terrible situation. And honestly, I think that, and obviously it goes without saying, that was the reason, the biggest reason why Donald Trump won election, is because he understood this issue that politicians on both sides of the aisle had been ignoring for literally decades.
Let's, though, steep ourselves in politics for just a second, because we are 4 days out from the midterm elections. And you hear Republicans echoing what the president is saying about the fact that we have to fix this. You've got a 7,000+ caravan and then 3 other caravans being reported on now making their way north toward the border. It will take weeks. We acknowledge that. But the visual, along with the talking points, if you will, on one side, up against, well, silence, really, in terms of ideas from Democrats. Is that fair?
I wouldn't call it silence. I think what Democrats are trying to do, and rightfully so, and I will do it myself as the Democrat representative on the couch, is to talk about what's really going on the ground here. So right now the caravan is about 4,000 people that, as you said, will get here about mid-December if they do make it.
No, they picked up thousands in Mexico.
Okay.
On their trip.
Okay. 4,000 to 7,000, whatever it is. Either way, it's coming mid-December. There are more building. But what the president did yesterday, not only lying about these tents, so the Pentagon had to come out and say that's not true, he's lying about the percentage of asylum seekers that show up.
Why do you say lying? Just
because his own DOJ
isn't building them doesn't mean that they won't get built.
He said we have tons of tents. I forget the number that he used. That's not true. We are not putting people in tents. Asylum seekers, last year, the DOJ said 89% of them showed up for their court date. The president has said 2-3% actually show up. The year before that, 91% showed up for their court date. These people are coming here to escape a humanitarian crisis, and he wants to talk about them as if they are all MS-13 members.
I have a couple points about that. If we can try not to be emotional for a second here. If people are coming here to seek asylum, they are by definition fleeing a place where the rule of law has broken down. That's the problem. It's lawlessness. And then they're coming here and we're saying that we want to ignore the laws. He's saying if you're seeking asylum, present yourself at a port of entry. Don't break the law because you're fleeing a place where no one's respecting the law. The irony in that is thick. And Jessica, I have to tell you, because I heard a lot of people say this yesterday, you know, you talk about the president lying. Yesterday you said on the couch that everything the president says is a lie. That's a lie. You lied. Now, I know you didn't mean to, and I know you were trying to make a point, and I totally understand that. But this is the place we're at when everybody's shouting and saying things, and you're calling him a liar, and then you yourself said something that wasn't true.
Well,
everything
we were having a conversation.
I'm sure at one point he walked outside and said it's raining, and that was true.
I don't think that that's fair, Melissa. I do take your point, and we do live in a hyperbolic time. And yes, I regret that. I'm sure the president has once correctly cited that it was raining when it was raining. We were talking about the fact that he said to Jonathan Karl, I always try to be truthful. And then he marched out the day after, and he told a bunch of lies about these immigrants.
Let's not relitigate yesterday. Let's stick with where we are today. And we don't know what the president knows in terms of tent building or private sector or any of that.
I would hope he knows more than us.
I would think he probably would if it's his idea. So we'll see what happens, Dagan. But the bigger problem or the bigger issue is here is this sort of drumbeat now of, well, what happens when these people get to the border? Is there going to be a showdown with the crackdown? And then you heard from the president on this part of it. Let's watch.
We're not going to put up with that. They want to throw rocks at our military fights back. We're going to consider it. And I told them, consider it a rifle. When they throw rocks like they did at the Mexico military and police, I say, consider it a rifle.
So is the president handing his critics maybe something to chew on and a talking point forecasting that there would be a problem, or is that reality?
Well, as he often does, as he often baits the media to lose their minds over some phrase that he uses. And I'll just point people who might be upset by what the president said. I'll point people to what a Pentagon spokesman told Fox News earlier today. He reiterated the deployed U.S. forces are support troops, not combat troops. U.S. forces will not be on patrol. They will only support Border Patrol in areas like logistics, engineering, aviation, and medical support. And for all the accusations and the shrieking and the screaming by the Democrats about Republicans and conservatives fear-mongering about these thousands of people headed toward our border, why is it so hard for the Democrats to say, or rather impossible for them to say, thousands of people should not be allowed to bum rush our border?
But they did say it. They said it through then Senator Barack Obama, who exactly said, I'm not going to allow that. We shouldn't allow anybody coming across our borders. They've got to do it legally. But I don't see why the words out of the mouth of one president and the words, similar type words out of the mouth of another president, why is one acceptable but the other isn't?
I think that it represents how dug in Democrats are in being completely and wholly anti-Trump.
What's wrong with presenting yourself at a port of entry for asylum? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? That's what he said. Present yourself at a port of entry.
But isn't that what
remember what those people on the ground told William Lajeunesse?
They're trying to cross
they
illegally.
answered that question, Melissa. They said, well, we may not be able to come in with asylum because maybe we don't fit the criteria. They said, since that may be the case, we're willing to cross in illegally. We've had that question answered by people in the caravan.
But to the best of my understanding, so two things. One, seeking asylum is a legal procedure. We recognize that. That's how people come here. And Customs and Border Patrol.
Mexico,
well, a lot of them are seeking it in Mexico, and then some do want to carry on and come to the United States. But Customs and Border Patrol apprehends, I believe, 851 people at various ports of entry every single day. They are equipped to do this. The thousands and thousands of troops that are being sent down there, which Chuck Hagel was talking about this, is nothing but a political stunt. And Dagan, the thing that you read out,
first of all,
answer my question.
Secretary of Defense Mattis said this is not a stunt. He doesn't deploy for a stunt. But let me ask you this. So the way that Jessica is kind of laying it out is possible that many of these people will try to go to a port of entry. Many of them may not try. So you're going to need your Border Patrol there positioned. And as a backup, the way it's been explained to me by heads of Border Patrol is you'll have our military as a backup. They'll be building tents for the Customs and Border people. They'll be doing things in that supporting role.
And of course, one of the biggest things that they need down there are lawyers to process all of these claims and sort out the ones that are frivolous from the ones that are not. But to answer your important question, what has changed about this from when Democrats used to be at least sane about this stuff is the fact that they've discovered that it's a very, very good political weapon. And I think you would agree that, I think that's been the major change in why I think Democrats are no longer talk responsibly about it. But the other thing is that if you're seeking asylum, you're supposed to seek asylum at the first border you come to, and that would have been Mexico in this case.
Oh no, they came 3 countries away. They've seen a few borders.
I'm sketchy.
And I don't know how they looked at it each way.
But the other thing is, and this is why I think Donald Trump has picked up a lot of appeal, not just among conservatives but across the board, is that he wants to change our immigration policies so that they benefit the United States instead of being an answer to other people's problems.
God forbid we have laws and enforce them.
Meantime, President Trump in the midst of a very active final campaign push on behalf of Republican candidates with just 4 days until the midterms. The president will travel to 8 states for rallies in 9 cities. Today, the president heads to Indiana and West Virginia after stumping for GOP Senate candidate Josh Hawley in Missouri yesterday. The president ripping Democratic incumbent Claire McCaskill.
In just 5 days, the people of Missouri are going to retire far-left Democrat Claire McCaskill, who's been saying such nice things about me. But you know what? She'll never vote with me. She'll never vote. She'll never vote. She never has. And she didn't even vote for Justice Kavanaugh. Think of that. Didn't vote.
The president's barnstorming tour comes amid a report in the Wall Street Journal saying Republicans are increasingly pinning their hopes on the president to be their closer in the home stretch. It strikes me on a day like today, Dagan, he should be talking about the economy.
Yeah, we're going to get to that later, but I think that the headline should be, we have wages in this country growing faster than 3% for the first time in 9.5 years. April 2009 is how far you have to go back to find wage growth like that in this country. That is absolutely incredible. And the Republicans who are actually running for office have completely failed to message that. They've also failed to message on health care, to call bull or horse hooey on the notion that they've gotten rid of coverage for pre-existing conditions, because that's a lot of the advertisements, a lot of what the Democrats have been running on. They need to call it out on that. And anybody who says they're for Medicare for all, Bernie Sanders' bill is Medicare for none. It abolishes Medicare and abolishes private insurance in this country. Those should be in ads in the closing days of this election cycle, and you don't hear that from the Republicans.
Jessica, does going positive ever work? Or do you really, on both sides, I mean, just in politics in general? It seems like...
I think so.
You think so?
Do
you think if they were talking about the economy more, it would do better for Republicans?
It is to some degree baked in, and we've been talking about that. People have, for the last couple of years, been enjoying economic gains under President Trump that they associate very clearly with him. They are saying he's responsible for this, consumer confidence up, and I'm ignoring the Obama years because we're here under Trump now. But that is kind of baked in, and they're taking that for granted. It is the only category, though, that he's rated positively on. So I don't know why he's not just hammering that all the time as the businessman president.
Positive versus negative. Do you think in the campaign, railing on your enemies versus going out there and saying, don't you like how things are right now?
Sadly, negative always works better than positive in this current politics. But the thing that's sort of amusing to me is that people criticize Trump for wanting to talk about the caravan. Well, there are two things he knows. One is the economy is extraordinary, and as you said, we'll get to this. But he can't control what the media covers or what they don't cover. But he can sort of play their game. And the reason he's talking about the caravan is because he wants this election to be about illegal immigration. And how that is a bad thing, I mean, this is about politics.
Well, it's the messaging at his rallies, though, and I think that's what we're talking about, right, Harris, is, you know, when he gets out there and delivers a specific message, is it working? Is it helping?
The advent of technology is that the unintended audience gets to see it, too. He's talking directly to the people who are in the seats and in the bleachers, and that's what you do at a political rally. But now we can all watch it on our phones. And so everybody sees it, and then you have to question, well, is that what the president should be saying? Yeah, actually, in those battleground states, that works for him. But I would say this, and I know we're going to get to the economy as a whole later, and we should, because we're not talking about it enough.
And I'm a nerd, so I love talking some numbers.
Well, you work at FBN, so I hope so. You guys are the experts. So I don't get why Republicans aren't carrying the banner on certain things. I don't get it. It's like they're waiting for this president to give them permission to just follow him. You know what? You have your own lanes. Walk down your own lanes and carry your own banners and you know, pull together as a team. The Democrats have figured this out. They got the Green Party candidate to side with Kristen Sinema down in Arizona.
Her name is still going to be on the ballot, though, so I wonder if her voters will have heard her.
People are aware enough, I think, that, okay, that's where Kirsten Sinema came from. Yeah. She was a Green Party activist. And so now, so you see Democrats pulling together. Republicans will have to do that as well, irrespective of what the topic is, you know, whether it's the economy but as a whole, yes, Republicans should be talking about that.
One thing to note, I saw two members of our decision desk, our decision team for election night who were on Fox News yesterday, and they said in Missouri and Arizona, I bring this up because it's Arizona, women are moving toward Republicans. That's one trend that they see. Despite the Cook report now basically even raising the number of seats that the Democrats could win in the House, raising it, the forecast is now for Democrats to gain 30 to 40 seats, up from 25 to 35.
Part of what I'm reading about that, Jessica, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I know Charlie will chime in here too, is because in some households, not all, women are looking at the budget for the household, and they understand in socialism you are really acting like you don't have a budget. And so as your party goes left, it is confusing and it is concerning. And so if you could drill down to see exactly what those women were asked about that topic, I'd be really curious to see what the answers were in terms of that polling.
Absolutely. I mean, it was the greatest thing that political consultants and advertisers figured out, that women are making the financial decisions in a household, even though...
I never like to label everybody, but yes, some.
A majority, at least, are, you know, getting in there on what car we should buy and what we're going to do about our mortgage, and they're equal partners, certainly, in that household. I did see that about that trend line, but the trend line is the opposite way, for instance, in Georgia. And you've seen staggering numbers about white suburban women that went for Donald Trump that are now looking at Democrats, and we have the biggest advantage in gender imbalance advantage for quite some time. So, again, like it was in 2016 when, whether you were surprised or not that Donald Trump won, there were certainly surprises within the data for all of us about who broke for who.
Charlie, I miss the sound of your voice.
So it's funny about pollsters. I can't stand pollsters. I think that they've destroyed politics in America. I think that they divide us. They're just they're the worst set of people. But they do a lot of damage.
Tell us how you really feel. I feel remarkably uncomfortable.
I think if you took away all of the divisions like women, white women, Hispanic women, all that sort of stuff, what you'd find out is 90% of Americans love the economy right now. And you'd also find about 80 to 90% are like, you know what, we ought to have a border that works. And we should be in control of who comes into our country legally. And you know what, I bet 100% of legal immigrants would also be in favor of that, because they went through all the trouble to do this, and the illegal immigration hurts them more than anybody. And so I just...
Are you just making those numbers up? Because that's how you feel? Yeah.
All right. Without pollsters, you can make them up. See, that's...
Oh, how fun to just invent the world.
We know you're going to stay with us all day, every day through election night, when our special coverage begins at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Brett Baer and Martha McCallum will be at the helm into the wee hours of the night. As we get results from around the country, it is going to be quite a night, so spend it right here on FNC. A New York Times report raising questions about former Trump campaign advisor Roger Stone and his knowledge of the WikiLeaks hacked email releases during the 2016 presidential campaign. So did he have the inside information, and was anyone on the campaign aware of it? What Stone has to say straight ahead. Also, we just touched on October jobs numbers soaring past expectations, wages up. Now the big question looms: how might this awesome economic news impact the midterm elections just 4 days away?
It's really an astonishing report. You know, we did this estimate of what the hurricane effect was going to be, because the hurricane came during the survey week, and we thought that it was going to subtract about 60,000 jobs from this. And so we were prepared for the worst, and this is just like an astonishing number.
The New York Times is reporting special counsel Robert Mueller is now looking into whether informal advisor to the Trump campaign Roger Stone had the inside track to WikiLeaks in 2016, with prior knowledge of the group's plan to release those hacked DNC and Hillary Clinton emails. The report cites a never-reported email exchange between Roger Stone and the Trump campaign chief strategist Steve Bannon. After Julian Assange went public with those emails. The New York Times is reporting, quote, the email exchange not previously reported underscores how Mr. Stone presented himself to Trump campaign officials as a conduit of inside information from WikiLeaks, Russia's chosen repository for documents hacked from Democrat computers, end quote. Stone, who had publicly predicted WikiLeaks would release those hacked emails, is denying claims that he had any inside info, writing an op-ed in the Daily Caller, which says, quote, What I am guilty of is using publicly available information in a solid tip to bluff, posture, hype, and punk Democrats on Twitter. This is called politics. It's not illegal, end quote. Charlie, is that what it is?
Yeah, increasingly it's become that. But we have to be very careful about all this because, of course, I doubt that Robert Mueller is the source of any of this information. So that leaves a couple of the other characters involved as possible sources of these leaked emails. And then you have to sort of think about, well, what's in it for them and why are they releasing this stuff? And it's a 3D chess game that we don't entirely understand. And Roger Stone has been the master of dirty tricks going back a long, long time. And he knows how to instigate things like this. And, you know, I dare say I couldn't imagine that we know right now what
can
exactly
I just get
he's
to the point? Because the point is always the president of the United States.
Right.
I don't think anybody really cares about Roger Stone or some of these, you know,
but he could get hung up in
people.
it.
So that's my question. I mean, so put this in the constellation of the president, this man, Roger Stone, and what they're saying he knew about a situation.
I have a hard time seeing how anybody is going to pin anything that is going on at that level to the president. But that doesn't mean that Roger Stone doesn't find himself in a really bad situation if he's not been truthful or if you know, some of his claims have been
again, if it doesn't have anything to do with the White House, which is the people's house, I don't think we really care about what happens
we
to
may
Roger
not,
Stone,
but,
do we?
but Mueller might. Mueller might still want to, if he has
and use it as leverage, or
just to indict Roger Stone on his own.
Yeah.
I mean, not even to squeeze anyone, just to get Roger Stone.
It just, if at the end of the day he says, well, this guy lied to these people.
Oh, lied to the FBI.
Yeah, and then, you know.
Is that the crime if he lied to the FBI? Because if he knows about it, did he have an obligation to stop it? I mean, I'm asking it honestly. You know, what's the difference? Are they saying he knows about it or he helped orchestrate it? Like, what's the end game in there?
I would think that the real thing is if he wasn't truthful about it, and
to whom?
To the feds. To Mueller.
That seems to be why. That seems to be the stomping ground.
I've said that all along. Look at Martha Stewart.
Yeah.
She was never even charged with insider trading criminally. Yeah. She went to jail in West Virginia for 5 months for a process crime for lying to investigators and
or the entire Starr report.
And I think most of the people who have entered guilty pleas related to the Mueller investigation so far, it's related to lying to the FBI for a process crime. One thing we do know about Roger Stone, the Wall Street Journal reported earlier this week, they've subpoenaed material related to Roger Stone's. These were conference calls he was doing and advertising in August of that year. They've also gotten his text messages the special counsel has, emails and social media messages. So they have all that information. It's very easy to nail you. If they ask you about that and you tell the feds one thing and your emails or text messages prove something else, they'll nail you for that crime too.
Or he was bragging and lying. You know, he was saying he's boasting.
And we've heard that along the way,
he said that he got a tip, right? He said, I got a really good tip. So was that tip from Julian Assange or it was from some guy on the corner? And also, if he did know that this was going to happen, which turned Comey's October surprise into, you know, an even bigger surprise for the Hillary Clinton campaign, if he was conspiring with WikiLeaks to dump this information at that exact moment to influence the election, and WikiLeaks is run by foreigners, is that conspiring with a foreign power to impact the U.S. election?
Is knowing conspiring? Like if somebody told
I'm just saying,
I'm curious.
it might not just be, you know, saying like, oh, you know, it's bluff and bluster and posturing. He might actually have been working with a foreign power.
So I'm about to talk about something really hot. I know Hollywood says that it's a good plot in a movie that's hot. This is hot. Some strong jobs numbers are out. Can I get an amen? Just 4 days before the midterm elections, President Trump touted the report as a big boost for Republicans, but also if you're looking for a job. So is the president politically right, and how much could it influence voters at the polls? We'll talk about the potential impact. But again, Dagan, it's the jobs numbers and if you're looking for a job. All right. Some Hollywood elites are going all in for Democrats ahead of the midterms. Vice President Pence ripped a Georgia Democrats' decision to bring in Oprah Winfrey and other celebrities for support. Whether Hollywood stars really do have any effect on voters, we'll talk about it. Stay close.
This Fox News alert, new signs our nation's economy is surging as the final jobs report before the midterms is released. Employers in this country adding 250,000 jobs last month, beating expectations bigly. And wage growth hitting its highest level in nearly a decade. You have to go back to April of 2009 to find wage growth as strong as it is last month. The unemployment rate holding steady at a nearly 50-year low of 3.7%. President Trump tweeting today, wow, pointing to the fact that the jobs and wage growth came despite the hurricanes, calling them incredible numbers and saying to keep it going, vote Republican. Charlie, why are more Republicans who are actually up for election or re-election not messaging in that way? And why? And is it resonating in a way that the polls don't tell us?
Well, I think that it certainly resonates. I mean, because everybody feels the economy, feels, especially the wage growth thing. That's the thing that is probably the most important in terms of what people actually feel. But, you know, it goes back to, you know, the thing that I have found most appealing about Donald Trump is not that when he takes on Democrats, it's what he's done to Republicans. And he is a master showman. He's a master marketer, and he's very good at doing this sort of thing. And people say, why is he on Twitter? Well, this is why he's on Twitter, is because he knows that he can get his message out just as he wants. And I wish more Republicans would learn how to play that message game, because he's beating all of them and Democrats at it.
We're at a higher growth plane in this country, which is astonishing given the fact that we are almost 10 years into this economic expansion. We're growing at a faster rate, with wages finally growing north of 3%. And it is because of the president's policies, because of tax reform and regulation rollback, you name it. He should take credit for it, and the Republicans in the House and the Senate should too.
Absolutely. I think what's most interesting about this report is it actually makes me nervous, because when you look at the wage growth, the incredibly low unemployment, we're below that rate where it's supposed to cause inflation, all those kind of things. We don't have enough people anymore. I mean, that's the irony in this report, is we've outstripped we've outstripped the population, and we have 7 million jobs that are open. We need more people, but we have to do it the right way. You see the people coming who say they want to work. Fantastic. We've got a whole bunch of jobs that are open. The president says, I'm going to get more people here by executive order. Congress says, you can't do that. That's our job. And we go, yeah, it is, guys. Why don't you get to it and reform immigration so that we can bring more people who want to come here to work in? We don't have enough people to fill all these jobs. That's what it said this morning.
But I wonder if people at home, the women who are basically balancing the checking accounts at home, who are responsible for the family's finances, Harris, are worrying about, I mean, they might worry about food inflation. They worry when gasoline costs more money. But in general, you've got consumer confidence in this country. Even with the stock market turning down last month, it's at nearly a 20-year high.
So what I think is interesting politically is the fact that people don't vote based on, and we say, oh, they vote on economic issues. They do when they're in trouble, but they don't vote a thank you. And so we don't know how those women and men who are balancing the checkbooks at home truly feel right now, because we canvass for, is there a crisis that you can get to the polls to, because that's generally what drives people to the polls. It may be some of the reason why Republicans are not messaging in that way, but I would say it's a mistake. You can do all of it. You can tell people to feel great and at the same time motivate them on the issues that you feel are crisis points, like national security or whatever it might be, to get them to the polls. I say that when you're winning on a subject matter, then you can add to it, but that's just me.
Or say, why would you change horses now when things are going so well in the economy? Why would you change?
I think there is, and the data backs this up. I know you hate data, Charlie, but I'm going to do it again. That
don't mind data.
majority of Democrat ads are focused on health care, over 50%, and actually majority of Republican ads are focused on the economy. The issue is what's being said out loud at rallies, and because the president is verbalizing an illegal immigration agenda, that doesn't mean that the Republican ads are not backing that up. So it'll be interesting to see what people are seeing at home on their TVs versus what the president is saying at a rally.
I will quote the great James Freeman from the Wall Street Journal editorial page. He said, President Trump has delivered on what he promised. Last month, we had more than 30,000 jobs added in manufacturing when people had written off that industry in this.
And as Trump said, I've kept promises, even promises I didn't make.
Okay.
I think you said that.
No, I swear he said that.
That sounds like something he said.
Only Trump could come up with that.
Well, it works for him.
All right, big low.
Apparently.
Oprah Winfrey, meantime, stumping for Georgia governor candidate Stacey Abrams, a move that caught the attention of Vice President Mike Pence, who doubts, quote, Hollywood liberals have much to say to Georgia voters.
I'd like to remind Stacey and Oprah and Will Ferrell, I'm kind of a big deal, too.
Hi, Denise. Hi, Oprah. How are you? I'm wonderful. How are you? Good. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, surprise. I am shocked. Surprise.
Oprah Winfrey going door to door in support of Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams. This comes as Vice President Mike Pence slammed Democrats Thursday over support they're getting from Hollywood elites and some who've been campaigning for Abrams. Here is the Vice President at a rally for Abrams' opponent, Brian Kemp.
We all know that Stacey Abrams' campaign being bankrolled by Hollywood liberals. In fact, I heard there's a few that have been through here lately. I heard Oprah Winfrey's in town today. And Will Ferrell I saw going door to door not too long ago. And I got a message for all Stacey Abrams liberal friends coming to Georgia. This ain't Hollywood. This is Georgia.
Meantime, late-night talk show comedian Jimmy Kimmel is set to headline a rally for Nevada Senate candidate Jackie Rosen in Las Vegas tonight. Singer Brandon Flowers of the Vegas-based band The Killers and California Senator Kamala Harris are also expected to take part in that rally. So we were here on the couch yesterday when Oprah did her thing, and we were all so into it.
I wasn't here, but I heard about it.
You missed out.
Yes.
It was good.
I heard about it.
Charlie, do you think this liberal Hollywood elites thing still works, especially after the Kanye debacle?
Well, no, I mean, Oprah obviously is an entity unto herself. I remember in 2008 when in South Carolina, even Democrats were not sure about this guy, Barack Obama. He had that funny name, and they were like, this is not really working. And then she headlined an event at USC in Columbia, and she packed that place.
Oh, yeah.
30+ thousand people showed up, and it was the first like really big mega rally. And that was the moment where even Democrats in the South were like, wait a minute, maybe we ought to take a second look at this guy. Maybe he is for real. So that was that was the turning point in that primary. But after Oprah, celebrities don't work. They don't help. Just ask Hillary Clinton. She had all the celebrities in 2016.
Yeah. So
I think, if anything, it just annoys people and it turns them off.
Because of the example that you gave with the Obamas and her specific support for them, I think that Oprah then leaned into a political category that many of these celebrities can never lean into. It was kind of what she did for books. You know, I mean, if Oprah read your book, you know, and what she did for the auto industry by giving away cars. I mean, she has that ability to do that like really no other celebrity that we've seen. So it's kind of disingenuous just to call her a celebrity. She's in a political lane.
Yeah, and there's so much good karma about her that emanates from her that doesn't emanate from. I mean, I love Will Ferrell, but it doesn't.
Comedy Central actually put something together that touches on exactly that point. So we're going to play that sound.
Should I vote?
How will I know that I should vote?
If celebrities don't tell me to.
Does Emma Stone think I should vote?
What about John Krasinski?
Have you guys seen A Quiet Place? Some people are calling this the most important election of our lives. But they aren't famous. Chris Tucker.
Lady Gaga.
Kendrick Lamar.
Will Smith.
Should I vote? Tom Holland, Tom Hardy, Thomas the Tank Engine. Should I vote?
Thomas the Tank Engine.
They didn't mention Oprah because they know that Oprah isn't just your basic celebrity. So.
Well, she's not from Hollywood either. She's from Chicago,
Yeah,
and that's where people associate with her. I mean, it is like, I wonder who Kendall and Kyler are voting for. But they live where? In California? Am I going to have to move to California to vote?
I don't think that's...
Can I make a serious point?
No one.
So we watched Oprah yesterday, and you have your idea of her politics, and you can decide whether you like her or not. Then when you hear her actually speak, I think you have a different reaction. Her message, though, was to vote.
Right.
And she was up there, and obviously she's advocating for a specific candidate. But when I listened to her, I was inspired to vote. I wasn't inspired to vote for the person necessarily that she was standing next to. And my point is that while she may pack a crowd and she may get interest and she may get attention and you answer the door and you love to see her, I don't know that you necessarily, that transfers to voting for the person that she's advocating.
But other
Well,
than
me, I just wanted to go vote.
Warnock, though, she specifically says, Stacey Abrams, and she specifically says, I've never done this thing
and that
for
she's voted
another
for
candidate.
Republicans
So
before.
it's clear that she wants you to vote Democrat, and that Democrat is Abrams.
Other than Oprah Winfrey,
transfers.
Tay Swift coming out against Marsha
Well,
Blackburn, but the candidate who's got more celebrity support,
like in the South,
is Beto O'Rourke, LeBron James, Willie Nelson. There was a big old country music concert this week, and guess what? Ted Cruz is beating him in the polls. If he wins, I'll eat crow. But for now,
I don't know what crow actually is, but you maybe have to eat it at some point. It's not always easy for reporters at the president's rallies, but a tender moment seen at the event the other night that could point to a thaw between MAGA fans and the media. We'll bring it to you.
Israel hater.
You're suppressive.
Israel
and
hater.
obnoxious. Yeah, look
Israel
at you.
hater.
We are fake.
Israel
You're a
hater.
phony. You're a liar.
CNN's Jim Acosta. Usually on the receiving end of nasty taunts and chants at Trump rallies, the network's chief White House correspondent sharing a touching moment, though, from a MAGA rally the other night in Florida. Watch.
I just wanted to apologize for flipping you off in Tampa.
Thank you.
I got carried away. You know, it's like I was asking for facts and not opinions. And
That's okay.
That's all I know. I understand. That's all we want.
That's very nice of you to
I
say
did
that.
get carried away, so I just wanted to apologize.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very
I accept
much
your
for giving me
apology,
the
and I hope I get to see you again.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take care, guys. See ya.
Acosta tweeting, had a hell of a night in Fort Myers. This man apologized for giving me the finger at a rally earlier this year in Tampa, Florida. We had a moment. I like that. That's nice. They apologized. You know, it's always good to apologize. And he was gracious. He accepted it. What a lovely moment. Why are you laughing, Charlie?
Where was Jim Acosta's apology? I wanted. The media needs to apologize to that guy and all.
He doesn't stand there and scream. Did you see those people standing there and screaming at Jim Acosta?
Democracy is a loud affair. It's it's energetic. People get fired up about stuff. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. You want people energized about politics.
Still nice, though, right? Still nice to sit there and say I'm sorry, and he graciously accepted it. Can we celebrate? Can we celebrate the moment?
Well, I apologize to everybody driving a car in New York City who I have flipped off in the last 20 years when you cut me off in the crosswalk. So since we're handing out apologies, I apologize
a blanket
for that
apology.
Too. Yeah.
Okay.
How many people?
Baby steps.
Hundreds. Thousands.
Is there any chance, we were talking about this before the show, is there any chance the tone's going to change after the midterms? Is there any chance that we can all hug and make up? And
well, you know what? It has to
Charlie's
start.
looking at me like I'm a crazy person. Do you all in the audience think I'm a crazy person?
No, it has to start somewhere.
Yes.
And the fact that that gentleman stepped up and said, I'm sorry I gave you the finger. I think that begins somewhere. I think you have to work from a place of hope and to use that word, and kindness. And I don't expect the media to change, but we can dream.
Okay.
It is good because it does then poke holes in the narrative of it's everybody, right? So there are these outlier examples, and then you can build upon that. Do I ever think that a MAGA rally is going to be a fun place for Jim Acosta? No, I don't think that will ever happen. But I think those moments are good, and I think it's good of him to highlight it as well, because he could have easily, to keep up the kind of bluster and the reputation for how difficult it is for him there, he could have not mentioned it. But also, giving the finger and some of the obscenities that are screamed are very different. Like, I would rather get the finger than have that woman screaming at me. No, that was
while he's
that seems polite.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as a recognizable Fox News person who walks around New York City, you know, you can sometimes have people be relatively hostile.
To me,
I think it's. I don't love what they're doing to him there. It looks very difficult. But glad someone apologized.
Charlie likes it because democracy's noisy.
Well, I've said for years, being in the journalism business, that reporters are the worst cocktail of arrogance and insecurity, like a drink of Pepto-Bismol and gin. So that's not changing.
What a fantastic note to end on right there. More Outnumbered in just a minute. All right, thanks to Charlie Hurt.
Thank you.
Yes.
Great to be here.
Always laughing, always the voice of reason.
You know why?
I like it.
Southside Virginia.
There you go.
There you go. We are back here at noon Eastern on Monday, but for now, here is Harris.